I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're uncovering the chilling tale of a powerful book. It's part of a wonderful series. This book we're focusing on today is called Surgical Murders, Book 5, and it's written by one of my favorite guests and a very talented author. Her name is Laura Burke. This gripping murder mystery follows the deaths of three young women found in different towns, killed in the same gruesome way, leaving behind a cold case that begs to be solved. Join us as we delve into the intriguing world of crime and investigation through this author's expertly crafted narrative. We're delighted to have this wonderful guest join us once again here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put Laura back in the spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing books. The links are below this interview. Laura, great to see you today. Thanks so much for joining me.
It's always a pleasure to be able to be interviewed by you.
I appreciate that. Every time I pick up one of your Jolene stories, Jolene, 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 I wind up singing that song all day because it reminds me of that song for some reason, although it's a little different. This Jolene is an FBI agent, the daughter of a police chief as well, correct?
Correct.
Tell us a
And
little bit about the character before we get into the specifics of the surgical murders.
um, Jolene is always wanted to be a detective, basically. And when she was in high school, she started clipping out these pieces out of the paper of these young girls that posed as models, but ended up dead. And her father found out, and he asked her, why she was doing this. And she said, because I'm going to solve this murder. And that led to one thing after another. She worked on the police force for a while. And then the FBI found out that she was so talented, they asked her to help solve some cold cases. Well, they made her, after the first two cases, they made her an FBI agent. And she's been working at solving cold cases ever since. She picks cold cases that are very old, that have been put away and never solved or never really worked, and she's able to solve them. And this is one of those. And the ending on all of Jolene's cases, she doesn't even know who the killer is until she gets to the very end of the story. And nobody can guess who the murderer is, because there's two or three people throughout the story that you can think is the murderer, is the killer, but it never turns out to be those people.
Exactly. They're great
This
plot
one
twists
here's
throughout. You kind of
right.
lead us up this way, lead us up that way, and we're not sure which way the book is going, which is part of the fun as well. So that's why Jolene does what she does. Why do you do what you do? Why do you like to write about murders?
Um, Mysteries have always been my fantasy. I love to solve different cases myself, and I like to put that little twist in there when I write these books. And it seems that every time I start writing a book, it intrigues me to follow up, to see what's going on, what's happening, and where it's going to lead. And that's the fun of writing. And when I'm writing, that takes my stress of my job off of me. I work 5 days a week, and then I write on the weekends. And working Monday through Friday is very stressful. So on the weekends, I can get that stress out by writing and killing somebody, which makes my life a lot easier.
Exactly, exactly. Well, if you write a book called The Boss Murders, then I'm going to get concerned, like, uh-oh, I don't know what Laura's going to do when she goes to work on Monday. No, I'm only kidding, of course. I'm only kidding, of course. But this book is great. Jolene has advanced in this book. She's now an FBI agent, as you mentioned. She is able to pick her own cold cases. Her love life is improving, which is interesting as well. So tell us a little bit about the character development and the case she chooses to investigate when she chooses a cold case this time around in the surgical murders.
Well, usually most of the cases that she works on, that she chooses, are anywhere from 8 to 10 years old. Some of them are even older than that. And this one here is only like 5 years old. And the police shrugged it off to the FBI, saying that, these were 3 prostitutes and that's why they were killed and that's why the case was never worked. The police, and this is not saying anything bad about the police, but the police have this, I don't know what you would call it. When it's a prostitute, they don't feel that it's really worth working. Shovel
Kind
it
of a
off the
bias.
bottom.
Yeah. Kind of
Right.
a bias, right?
And she knows different when she handles this case. She don't believe that these are 3 prostitutes, and it's 5 years old. And she begins working this case. And she finds that, it's really true that these are not prostitutes. These are well-groomed businesswomen working in the real estate market, and everybody just shuffled it off. And that's why she wants to prove that these 3 women are actually physical, they're not prostitutes, and that they have a real life outside of their work. And one of them is engaged to be married. So this case really intrigued her. And that's why she took this case. And she could feel the anxiety between the parents. And one of the girls was about to get married, and they were there on kind of like a vacation to kind of plan her wedding interview, and pick out the flowers and all this stuff that weddings usually have, and kind of take a small vacation. And her boyfriend, her fiance, is very upset because he was planning on marrying one of these girls, and he can't get any answers from the police or the FBI. They say, well, it's a cold case. Nobody's working it. And that's very upsetting to Jolene.
Exactly.
They find out.
Well, I'm sorry.
They find out that and these were all 3 real estate women that were very highly reserved in New York, very high priced real estate women. And there's no way they could have been prostitutes.
Exactly. I also think that's part of the beauty of having Jolene as an investigator. She kind of has a female sensibility about it, that she's not as willing as a man to disregard something, to say, oh, it's just a prostitute or it's just that. She humanizes it, right?
Right. And it's not just the men. There's a lot of women that push things off too. And there's a lot of men that have a big heart and want to see things solved as well. But those are far and few between. So you have to find the right person to get in and dig to find out what happened, why it happened, and who's involved in it.
These crimes in the surgical murders are quite gruesome. These women have basically been operated on. Tell us a little bit about that aspect of the story and why you chose that MO as a way of killing these women.
Well, the the incision is made on both sides of the neck, and they're basically 1 inch in diameter across the carotid, which means that they're going to bleed out really fast. But the bodies are cleaned up afterwards, and this surgical incision on both sides of the neck are made with such precision, you would think it was a doctor who had made them. Most of the time, if somebody cuts somebody's throat, it's usually jagged or with a real sharp knife, like a pocket knife or a butcher knife or something of that sort. But these items that cut these women was more like a scalpel. And even the person who did the autopsy on these women said that it had to be somebody in the medical field that did this, because the incisions were so precise. And there was no way that a layman could have made these directly. And I made that choice because we have a lot of doctors out there that do a lot of things that we're not aware of. And only a doctor could have made these incisions. And that's what you're to believe. And there's two people in the book that you would swear was the killer, and they both have medical degrees. And they both have been indicted on several occasions for wrongdoing. So you would think one of them actually did this killing. And that's all I'm going to tell you.
Exactly. And it might, and let's leave it open. It might be one of them. You never know. So, I know you know different, and I know different, and anybody else out there who's read the book knows different, but it could be. So we want to keep all possibilities open. Let's go through your books. This is book 5. Have you already started working on book 6?
Yes, I have.
Okay, what's book 6? Tell us about it.
Book 6 is called The Red Flag Murders.
Mhm.
Now, everybody wants to know, what does a red flag have to do with murders?
Right.
Well, I did a lot of searching throughout different countries, and we have a yellow crime scene tape here in the United States. England has a red crime scene tape. Germany has a blue. Each country has a different crime scene tape. Well, the only thing I did different with this is that there's a red crime scene tape that's placed around the bodies, and on a white piece of PVC is a red flag, which marks the grave of the person that was buried there. And that's why it's called the Red Flag Murders.
Wow.
And this guy bought a bunch of land, and he's going to build a big resort and put a lot of condos on it and a big hotel and a golf field and all this. Well, when they start digging up the land with a bulldozer, they come across a couple of bodies. They were just skeletons, and there was a couple of red flags. So then they started going a little bit deeper, and as they went a little farther, they found more. And it was almost like this was a graveyard. So they had to stop bulldozing, and they're having to dig the land up, and they're following this red tape. And there's maybe 15, 20 skeletons that are buried in this field. And nobody knows how in the world they got there. But there's a red crime scene tape that marks all of these bodies out. And they don't know where the red tape came from or the red flags. And that's the beginning of the story.
That sounds like another terrific episode or book within the Jolene series. And what's the setting going to be? Where is this going to take place?
It's up in the mountains.
Hmm.
And it's not, it's a nice piece of land, but it is up in the mountains, and it's kind of like one of the old Westerns, like an old Western town that has been torn down, and it's been just bare for years and years and years. And nobody has lived anywhere near the place for a long period of time. And that's why this guy bought it to build this resort. It was going to be a fabulous place, and it would be a nice place to take your wife or your family to vacation there. But now even that has come to pass, where he might not be able to do anything with the place. And as soon as people find out that there was a lot of skeletons buried there, nobody's going to want to go there.
It sounds great. It's a real life ghost town that's going to be transformed into a condo community. And the next thing you know, some ghosts are unearthed. So I think that sounds great as well. Well, I'm looking forward to reading that one and looking forward to talking to you when it's ready. When do you expect that to hit the presses, or has it already?
No, it hasn't hit the presses yet. I just started it about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I had a setback. So I'm only halfway finished with it. But I
Well,
hope to have it finished within the next couple of months.
well, wonderful. Well, it sounds like that word processor that you have up here is alive and well and already ready to get your fingers working furiously on that keyboard, because it sounds like you've got a great story there from what you've told me. The book we've been focusing on today is called Surgical Murders, Book 5. It's written by Laura Burke. It's part of a series. It features a wonderful female FBI agent by the name of Jolene, who takes on cold cases and solves them. And books leave you guessing throughout, and you learn a little bit about her and her life. Each book is different. Each book, of course, features a different case. In each book, you will also see the evolution of Jolene and those around her as well. And that's what makes these books so interesting. The Surgical Murders is a gripping mystery. It follows the deaths of 3 young women found in different towns, killed in the same way, leaving behind a cold case that just begs to be solved. And guess who's on the case? That's right, Laura Burke and Jolene. Laura, thank you so
And
much for joining. And what's that?
Jolene, she's got a love life going on too with
That's right.
one of
We
the
didn't talk about
agents.
that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's have developed now with Agent Bray, correct?
right. Agent
Right.
Blake. And that's going to be more developed in the next coming books.
Okay, wonderful. And I found that part interesting as well, that the romance there between them, I think, is quite intriguing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jolene and her man. Looking forward to it. Laura, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Oh, thank you for having me. And remember my hashtag line, I kill people for a living and I'm still broke.
That's great. I love it. I kill people for a living and I'm still broke. Well, hopefully that turns around soon, because these books are great. Folks, the links are below this interview. Order the books, download them. I was just finished up Surgical Murders today on Apple Books. It's also on Kindle, and you can also order the physical book as well. They're all terrific. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.
Thank you.